The sun cast a golden glow over Maplewood, a small, tight-knit town where everyone seemed to know everyone, at least, that's what people liked to believe. Jada Walker stepped into the town's only prominent bank, her heels clicking confidently against the tiled floor. Dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, her presence commanded attention, though she preferred to keep things low-key. Today was just supposed to be a simple visit to check on the branch she had recently acquired through a corporate merger. Jada joined the short line leading up to the teller stations, her mind running through the day's plans. She had been away from Maplewood for nearly 2 decades, carving out a name for herself in the world of business. Buying this bank was more than a financial decision, it was deeply personal. As a child, her family had struggled to secure loans here, and she remembered the sting of polite rejections veiled with excuses about policies. This was her way of coming full circle, creating opportunities for others where there had been none for her. The bank was busy that morning. Customers bustled around, some chatting in hushed tones, while others filled out forms. Behind the counter, Lisa Carter, a middle-aged teller with a crisp blouse and a slightly irritated demeanor, glanced at Jada with a fleeting look of disapproval. It wasn't unusual for Lisa to judge customers based on their appearance. To her, Jada's dark skin, understated jewelry, and no-nonsense expression didn't scream important client. When it was finally Jada's turn, she approached the counter with a polite smile. "Good morning," she began. "I'd like to discuss some account details, and—" Lisa cut her off mid-sentence. "You'll need an appointment for that," she said curtly, not bothering to make eye contact. Jada blinked, surprised. "I was told I could handle this at the teller window." "Well, whoever told you that was mistaken," Lisa snapped, her tone dripping with irritation. "This line is for regular transactions, not account consultations. You'll have to come back another day." A few heads turned at Lisa's tone, and Jada noticed the subtle shift in the atmosphere. She took a deep breath, determined to remain calm. "I understand. Perhaps you could point me to someone who can assist me?" Lisa finally looked up, her expression hardening. "Like I said, you need an appointment. We're very busy today." She gestured vaguely toward a phone number printed on a brochure. "Call this and schedule one." Jada glanced around, aware of the growing attention. A man in line behind her muttered something under his breath, and a woman nearby exchanged a sympathetic glance with her. Still, Jada kept her composure. "I see. Well, thank you for your time," she said evenly, her voice calm but firm. Just as she turned to leave, Lisa muttered loudly enough for others to hear, "Some people think they can just walk in and demand special treatment." Jada froze mid-step. The room seemed to go quiet, the air thick with tension. Slowly, she turned back to face Lisa, her gaze steady. "Excuse me?" Lisa shrugged, feigning innocence. "I didn't mean anything by it," she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. Jada stepped closer to the counter, her voice steady but carrying an unmistakable edge. "I think you should know exactly who you're speaking to before making assumptions. But let me ask you something, do you treat all your customers this way, or is it just the ones who look like me?" A hush fell over the room. All eyes were now on the two women. Lisa flushed, clearly flustered, but before she could respond, Jada continued, her voice calm but filled with authority. "You see, I've just returned to Maplewood after many years. I came here today as a courtesy, hoping to see how this branch operates. I wasn't expecting special treatment, just professionalism and respect. Unfortunately, I found neither." Lisa's eyes narrowed. "And what exactly are you trying to say?" Jada smiled faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. "What I'm saying is that your assumptions about me are misplaced. You might want to reconsider how you address customers in the future." With that, Jada reached into her bag and pulled out a business card, placing it on the counter with deliberate precision. The bold logo of the parent company that owned the bank gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Beneath it, her name was printed, followed by her title, Jada Walker, Regional Owner. The room collectively held its breath. Lisa's face went pale as she read the card. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, but no words came out. Jada leaned in slightly, her voice soft yet commanding. If you're curious about who approves your paycheck, now you know. The shock rippled through the room like a tidal wave. Customers exchanged wide-eyed glances, some whispering to each other. A man in the corner let out a low whistle. Even the other bank employees were frozen in place, their gazes darting between Jada and Lisa. Jada straightened, slipping the card back into her bag. I'll be back later this week to discuss some changes I'm implementing here. Until then, I suggest you reflect on how you represent this institution. Good day. With that, she turned and walked out, her head held high. The murmurs grew louder as the door swung shut behind her. Inside, Lisa remained rooted to the spot, her face a mask of humiliation and disbelief. For the first time in her career, she had been forced to confront the weight of her actions, and it was a reckoning she wouldn't soon forget. Little did the town know, this was only the beginning of a story that would shake Maplewood to its core. Jada's departure from the bank left a ripple of stunned silence that quickly transformed into whispers and side conversations among the remaining customers. Outside, the cool breeze greeted her as she walked to her car, her emotions a steady mix of frustration and resolve. She had faced moments like this her entire life, subtle digs, outright dismissals, and everything in between. But today wasn't about her alone, it was about the community she had promised herself she'd help rebuild. This incident only solidified her determination to make the bank a beacon of fairness and opportunity in Maplewood. Jada's mind drifted back to her childhood as she drove down Main Street, memories flooding in as she passed the familiar sights of her old neighborhood. Growing up, the Walker family had been among the first black families in the predominantly white town. Her parents, hardworking and proud, had done their best to provide for their children despite systemic hurdles. She remembered sitting with her father in the same bank years ago, watching him try to secure a small loan to start a landscaping business. The banker's words still echoed in her mind, "We're sorry, Mr. Walker, but this isn't the right time for us to take on additional risk." The look of quiet defeat on her father's face had been burned into Jada's memory. That moment had been pivotal for her, planting the seed of a dream she wouldn't fully articulate until years later. She had vowed to one day change the landscape of opportunity, not just for her family, but for others like them who were constantly told no before they even had a chance. The Walker family had struggled after that rejection. Her father had worked long hours in manual labor jobs to keep food on the table, while her mother took on extra shifts at the local diner. Jada excelled in school, driven by an internal fire to create a better life. Scholarships and grit got her into a prestigious business school, and from there, she carved out a career in finance. Now, after years of climbing the corporate ladder, she had the resources to make good on the promises she'd made to herself as a little girl. When the opportunity arose to acquire the very bank that had denied her family so long ago, she didn't hesitate. But rather than seeking revenge, Jada approached the purchase with a vision of transformation. She wanted the bank to become a hub for community growth, a place where small businesses could thrive and families could access opportunities that had once been out of reach. As she pulled into the driveway of her childhood home, now lovingly restored and maintained, Jada's phone buzzed. It was an email from her assistant, Nina, detailing the latest updates on the bank's operations. Jada scanned the report quickly, her lips tightening as she read about the resistance from certain staff members to the new initiatives she'd already begun implementing. Programs aimed at providing low-interest loans to minority-owned businesses and first-time homeowners were met with quiet pushback. Some employees claimed it was too risky, echoing the same rhetoric she'd heard as a child. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of her neighbor, Mrs. Turner, calling out from her porch. "Jada, is that you? My goodness, I haven't seen you in years." Jada smiled and waved, stepping out of the car to greet the elderly woman. Mrs. Turner had been a staple in the neighborhood for as long as Jada could remember, her warm smile and homemade pies a constant source of comfort during her childhood. After exchanging pleasantries, Mrs. Turner's tone grew serious. "I heard about what happened at the bank today," she said, lowering her voice. "Word travels fast in this town, you know. Folks are talking." Jada raised an eyebrow. "What are they saying?" Mrs. Turner sighed. Some people are excited about the changes you're bringing, but others, well, not everyone likes change, you know. Especially the ones who've gotten too comfortable with the way things are. Jada nodded thoughtfully. She had expected resistance, but hearing it confirmed only strengthened her resolve. "Thank you for letting me know," she said. "I'm not here to make everyone comfortable, I'm here to make things right." That evening, Jada sat at her dining table, poring over the bank's records and brainstorming ways to address the cultural resistance she was facing. She knew she couldn't force change overnight, but she also couldn't afford to let toxic attitudes linger. As she worked late into the night, an idea began to take shape. The next morning, Jada called an emergency meeting with the bank's management team. She wanted to address the incident from the day before and make her expectations crystal clear. The managers, a mix of seasoned professionals and newer hires, sat around the polished conference table, their expressions a blend of curiosity and apprehension. Jada wasted no time getting to the point. "I'm sure most of you have heard about what happened yesterday," she began, her voice steady but firm. "Let me be clear, what I witnessed at this branch was unacceptable. Disrespect, bias, and unprofessional behavior will not be tolerated in any capacity. This bank belongs to the people of Maplewood, and it's our responsibility to serve them with integrity." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "Effective immediately, we will be implementing mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all staff. Additionally, I'll be personally reviewing our hiring practices to ensure we're bringing in individuals who reflect the values we want to uphold. This isn't up for debate." The room was silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. One manager, a younger man named Eric, spoke up. "Ms. Walker, I think what you're doing is admirable, but you might face some backlash from the community. There are people who won't agree with these changes." Jada met his gaze evenly. "Change is never easy, Eric, but that doesn't mean it's not necessary. If we want to build a better future for this town, we have to start by challenging the status quo." As the meeting adjourned, Jada felt a sense of cautious optimism. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she was prepared for the fight. What she didn't know was that the incident at the teller's counter had already started to create ripples far beyond the walls of the bank. Customers who had witnessed the exchange began sharing the story with friends and family, and soon it had spread throughout the town. By the end of the week, Jada's story was the talk of Maplewood, sparking heated debates in coffee shops, church gatherings, and town meetings. Some praised her courage and vision, while others grumbled about outsiders coming in and shaking things up. Unbeknownst to Jada, one of the people most affected by the incident was Lisa Carter herself. For the first time in years, Lisa was forced to confront the biases she had carried and the damage they had caused, not just to others, but to herself as well. The stage was set for the beginning of a transformation, not only for Jada and the bank, but for the entire community of Maplewood. What had started as a simple act of disrespect was evolving into a movement that would challenge deeply ingrained beliefs and pave the way for lasting change. As the days passed, the town of Maplewood buzzed with talk about the incident at the bank. Jada Walker's name was on everyone's lips, and her actions were dissected in every corner of the community. Some saw her as a trailblazer, someone unafraid to challenge outdated norms. Others viewed her as an outsider stirring up trouble in a town that, for better or worse, was set in its ways. Meanwhile, Jada herself was deep in the trenches of her plans, navigating the complex task of rebuilding trust and reshaping the institution she now owned. But not everyone at the bank welcomed the changes. Among the staff, whispers circulated in hushed tones about Jada's directives. Lisa Carter, still reeling from the public embarrassment, found herself at the center of these murmurs. Her colleagues alternated between sympathy and judgment. Some saw her as a victim of an overzealous boss, others believed she had brought the situation on herself. Lisa's pride had taken a significant hit, but as the days went on, a nagging sense of guilt began to creep in. She replayed the scene with Jada over and over in her mind, each time wincing at her own dismissive words. Lisa had spent years working at the bank, priding herself on being efficient and professional, but this incident had forced her to confront something deeper. The truth was that her biases, subtle as they seemed to her, had been laid bare for the entire town to see. One evening, as she sat at her kitchen table nursing a cup of tea, Lisa's teenage daughter, Hannah, broke the silence. "Mom," she began hesitantly, "did you really say all that stuff to Ms. Walker?" Lisa sighed, setting her mug down. "It wasn't exactly like that," she replied, though the defensiveness in her tone was unmistakable. Hannah frowned. "I heard she's trying to make the bank better for people who've been left out. Why would you treat her like that?" Lisa opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat. What could she say? That she had been having a bad day? That she hadn't meant it? None of it seemed to justify what she had done. "I don't know, Hannah," she said finally. "I guess I didn't think." Hannah gave her a long, searching look before getting up and leaving the room, leaving Lisa alone with her thoughts. For the first time in a long time, Lisa felt a flicker of self-awareness. Maybe it was time to stop making excuses and start taking responsibility. While Lisa grappled with her inner turmoil, Jada was busy implementing her vision for the bank. She had held a town hall meeting earlier in the week to share her plans, and though the turnout had been modest, the energy in the room was palpable. Jada had outlined her initiatives with clarity and passion: low-interest loans for small businesses, financial literacy workshops, and programs to support first-time homebuyers. She had also announced a scholarship fund for local high school students, named in honor of her late father. Not everyone was on board, of course. At the back of the room, a few skeptical voices muttered about handouts and favoritism. Jada had addressed their concerns head-on, explaining that the programs were designed to uplift the entire community, not just select groups. Still, she knew she couldn't win everyone over overnight. Change, as she had learned, was a process, not an event. The real challenge, however, lay within the walls of the bank itself. Despite Jada's directives, resistance from certain employees persisted. Some staff members dragged their feet on implementing the new policies, while others openly questioned her decisions in meetings. One senior manager, Frank Dawson, was particularly vocal in his opposition. "I've been in this business for 30 years, he declared during a staff meeting. "And I can tell you, these programs are going to put us in the red." Jada met his gaze calmly. "Frank, with all due respect, the bank's profitability isn't in question here. What's at stake is our integrity and our role in this community. If we focus solely on the bottom line, we lose sight of the people we're here to serve." Frank scoffed, but said nothing further. Jada knew she had to tread carefully with him. While she valued diverse opinions, she couldn't allow insubordination to undermine her vision. As tension simmered, an unexpected development shifted the dynamics. One afternoon, Jada received a call from Lisa Carter. The voice on the other end of the line was hesitant, almost shaky. "Ms. Walker," Lisa began, I was wondering if I could speak with you in person." Jada was momentarily taken aback. She hadn't expected Lisa to reach out, let alone so soon. "Of course," she replied. "Come by my office tomorrow morning." The next day, Lisa arrived at Jada's office, clutching a folder tightly in her hands. She looked visibly nervous but determined. Jada gestured for her to sit, offering a reassuring smile. "What can I do for you, Lisa?" Jada asked, her tone neutral. Lisa took a deep breath. "I wanted to apologize," she said, her voice trembling, "for how I treated you that day. There's no excuse for what I said, and I'm deeply sorry." Jada studied her for a moment, her expression unreadable. "I appreciate your apology," she said finally. "But I'm curious, what made you decide to come here today?" Lisa hesitated, then opened the folder she had brought with her. Inside were handwritten notes and ideas for community outreach programs. "After what happened, I started thinking about all the times I've dismissed people without even realizing it," she admitted. "And I want to do better. I want to help with the changes you're making here." Jada leaned back in her chair, impressed but cautious. "That's a big step," she said. "Are you prepared for what it might mean? Change isn't always easy or comfortable." Lisa nodded. I know. But I'm willing to try. Jada smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression. Then let's get to work. The meeting marked the beginning of an unlikely partnership. Over the following weeks, Lisa threw herself into the bank's new initiatives, surprising even herself with her enthusiasm. Her transformation didn't go unnoticed, and it sparked a ripple effect among her colleagues. Slowly but surely, the culture of the bank began to shift. For Jada, Lisa's change of heart was a powerful reminder of why she had come back to Maplewood in the first place. It wasn't just about policies and programs, it was about changing minds and hearts, one person at a time. And in that, weeks turned into months, and the changes at the bank began to ripple through Maplewood in ways both subtle and profound. Jada had doubled down on her initiatives, rolling out programs that prioritized accessibility and equity. Small business owners who had previously been denied loans were now able to secure the funding they needed to expand. Families who had been renting for generations were finally stepping into homeownership. The scholarship fund, named after Jada's father, was already making waves, with local students eagerly applying for a chance to pursue higher education. He found hope for the future. And as Jada looked out over the town she had once called home, she felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. This was just the beginning. The fallout from Diana Patterson's exposé sent shockwaves through Maplewood. Those implicated in the opposition group faced public scrutiny, their reputations tarnished by their actions to undermine Jada's efforts. Town meetings became hotbeds of debate as residents grappled with the revelations. Some defended the old guard, clinging to nostalgia and fear of change, while others passionately advocated for the new direction Jada was steering the bank and the community. For Jada, this was both a vindication and a call to action. The support she received bolstered her resolve, but she knew this was no time to rest on her laurels. The real work was just beginning. As the dust settled, Jada set her sights on a new initiative that would push the boundaries of what the bank could achieve for the community. The idea came to her during a quiet evening walk through Maplewood's Main Street. She noticed the empty storefronts, the struggling small businesses, and the potential that lay dormant in the heart of her hometown. The bank had already made strides in supporting individual entrepreneurs, but Jada realized it needed to take a broader approach. She envisioned a revitalization project that would transform Maplewood into a thriving hub of innovation and culture. Her plan was ambitious. The bank would create a fund specifically dedicated to revitalizing the downtown area. This fund would provide low-interest loans and grants to local businesses while also investing in infrastructure improvements, such as upgraded storefronts, improved public spaces, and community-driven art installations. To ensure sustainability, Jada proposed partnering with local government and other financial institutions, pooling resources to maximize impact. The proposal was met with a mix of excitement and skepticism. At the next board meeting, Jada presented her vision with the same passion and clarity that had become her trademark. "This isn't just about dollars and cents," she said, addressing the room. "It's about creating a legacy. Maplewood has the potential to be a beacon for other small towns, a place where people want to live, work, and thrive. This project isn't just an investment in our town, it's an investment in our future." The board approved the initiative, albeit with some hesitance from the more conservative members. Once again, Jada found herself navigating uncharted waters, balancing bold innovation with the need for careful execution. The first phase of the project focused on outreach. Jada and her team hosted town halls and community workshops, inviting residents to share their ideas and concerns. The response was overwhelming. Artists proposed murals that celebrated Maplewood's history and diversity. Restaurateurs dreamed of creating a culinary district that would draw visitors from neighboring towns. Local teenagers suggested a co-working space that could double as a venue for live performances. Jada was inspired by the creativity and enthusiasm she encountered. But with so many ideas on the table, the challenge became one of prioritization. She worked tirelessly with her team to develop a roadmap that balanced practicality with vision. The first grants and loans were issued within weeks, and the transformation of downtown Maplewood began in earnest. One of the first businesses to benefit from the fund was a bookstore owned by an elderly couple, the Devises, who had been struggling to keep their doors open. With the bank's support, they were able to renovate their space and expand their offerings to include a cozy cafe and an area for community events. The bookstore quickly became a gathering place for residents of all ages, hosting everything from poetry readings to financial literacy workshops. Another recipient was a young chef named Elena, who had dreamed of opening her own farm-to-table restaurant but had been repeatedly denied loans in the past. With Jada's help, Elena secured the funding she needed to turn her vision into reality. Her restaurant, the Maple Table, became an instant success, drawing diners from across the region and earning rave reviews for its innovative menu and welcoming atmosphere. As the downtown area began to flourish, the ripple effects were felt throughout the community. Property values rose, attracting new residents and businesses. The revitalization project also created jobs, reducing unemployment and giving people a renewed sense of pride in their town. But the journey wasn't without its challenges. The opposition group, though diminished, continued to spread doubt and misinformation. Jada faced constant scrutiny, both from within the bank and the wider community. There were times when the weight of it all felt almost unbearable, but she refused to let it break her. One of the most powerful moments came during a town event celebrating the progress of the revitalization project. Standing on a stage in the newly refurbished town square, Jada looked out at the sea of faces, people who had once doubted her, people who had supported her, and people who had been directly impacted by her work. "Today isn't about me or the bank," Jada said, her voice steady and full of emotion. "It's about us. It's about what we can achieve when we come together, when we believe in the power of community and the strength of our shared dreams. Maplewood is more than just a town, it's a family. And like any family, we'll face challenges, but we'll face them together." The crowd erupted in applause, and for a moment, Jada allowed herself to feel the enormity of what she had accomplished. This was the dream her father had envisioned, a bank that wasn't just a financial institution but a catalyst for change, a place where everyone had a chance to succeed. In the weeks that followed, Maplewood's transformation continued to gain momentum. The revitalization project became a model for other small towns, drawing attention from regional and national media. Jada was invited to speak at conferences and panels, sharing her experiences and inspiring others to think differently about what banks and communities could achieve together. Through it all, Jada remained grounded, never losing sight of the values that had guided her journey. She continued to mentor Lisa Carter, whose growth had been one of the most unexpected yet rewarding outcomes of the entire experience. Lisa, in turn, began mentoring newer employees, creating a ripple effect of positive change within the bank itself. As Jada stood in the doorway of her office one evening, looking out at the bustling bank lobby filled with people of all backgrounds and walks of life, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The road had been long and fraught with obstacles, but she had proven that change was possible, that even the smallest seeds of hope could grow into something extraordinary. Maplewood was no longer just the town where she grew up, it was the town she had helped transform. And as the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the streets she had worked so hard to revitalize, Jada knew that this was only the beginning. The future was bright, and it belonged to everyone. The years that followed cemented Jada Walker's place in Maplewood's history. What had started as a quiet revolution in banking had become a movement that reshaped the town's identity and inspired countless others. Jada's bank was no longer seen as just a financial institution, it had become a symbol of what was possible when courage, vision, and community came together. The downtown revitalization project had transformed the once struggling streets into a bustling hub of creativity and commerce. New businesses thrived alongside revitalized staples of the community. Families flocked to the newly renovated park, adorned with murals painted by local artists, each one telling a piece of Maplewood's story. The annual Maplewood Harvest Festival, now sponsored by the bank, had grown into a regional event that drew visitors from across the state, bringing tourism dollars and a sense of pride to the town. Thomas Briggs, once a vocal opponent, even approached Jada one day to thank her. "I was wrong about you," he admitted, his voice tinged with regret. You've done more for this town than I ever thought possible. Jada's response was gracious, but firm. This was never about me, Mr. Briggs. It's about all of us. And it's never too late to be part of the solution. Her humility and unwavering focus on community continued to define her leadership. Jada's efforts earned her national recognition, including invitations to speak at conferences and accolades from industry leaders. Yet she remained deeply connected to Maplewood, always prioritizing the needs of her hometown over personal ambition. The defining moment of Jada's legacy came during the bank's centennial celebration. The entire town gathered in the park to honor the institution that had become so much more than a bank. Jada was the keynote speaker, and as she stood on the stage, looking out at the faces of the people whose lives she had touched, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This bank was founded to serve this community, she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. And over the years, it has grown alongside Maplewood, adapting to the challenges and opportunities of each era. But what makes this place special isn't just its history, it's its people. You are the heart of Maplewood, and everything we've accomplished, we've done together. She paused, letting her words sink in. My father used to tell me that the measure of a person isn't what they achieve for themselves, but what they do for others. That's a lesson I carry with me every day, and it's the guiding principle of this bank. We're not just here to make transactions, we're here to make a difference. The crowd erupted in applause, and as Jada stepped down from the stage, she was met by a group of children holding a banner that read, "Thank you, Ms. Walker, for believing in us." Tears filled her eyes as she realized that her work had not only transformed a town but had also inspired a new generation to dream bigger and strive for more. As the sun set over Maplewood that evening, Jada took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought her to this point. The challenges, the triumphs, the sacrifices, it had all been worth it. Her father's dream had become a reality, and her own legacy was secure. Maplewood was no longer just a town struggling to find its way. It was a thriving, vibrant community that embraced its past while looking boldly toward the future. And at the center of it all was Jada Walker, a woman who had dared to dream, to fight, and to build a better world for everyone.